Scott, our beloved NVS Fins is officially on sale. 25% off Apex Fins through Monday, December 2nd, for Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Unbelievable. Now's your chance to get your NVS fins. And we've harped on it forever, but I don't think we can harp on it enough. And that is that change your fins, folks. Get some new fins, try some new fins. It's going to affect the way that your boards work. And quite frankly, it's the most crucial. I think it's probably the most crucial part of, I don't know, if you want a new feeling for your surfboard, get some new fins. It's going to be so much fun to do that, like change out some fins.
You take one board and make it into multiple boards, basically, through the fin change. Look at those 𝗕𝗄𝗃 straight ups. Freaky looking. Um, But the deal is, I think a lot of our listeners have already got NVS fins over the years, taken our recommendation. Feedback's been great, but if you want to save 25%, now's the time. If you want to stock up on anything, maybe try those 𝗕𝗄𝗃s, because they are outside of the box looking, and saving 25% makes it easier to do that. That's surfnvs.com, by the way, is their website. The other thing I wanted to mention was we were talking about the Real Water Sports glider giveaway. Your buddy won it.
I know. That is so incredible. He called me yesterday. I hadn't seen the video that Tripp sent out. And he called me yesterday. He's like, and I had no idea. I was like, oh my God, Kyle Knox won the glider. That's incredible. So stoked for him.
I know. I have no idea how many names are in that drawing, but it's a lot. The odds of you knowing the person who won it is pretty incredible. So that's obviously realwatersports.com that was doing that giveaway, and they are doing their Black Friday sale. Right now, there's lots of Black Friday sales. So be strategic in where you want to get things, but obviously the holiday is coming up. Christmas is coming up too, so it'd be a great time to stock up on Christmas gifts.
Yeah. Real Water Sports. Tripp and
Um,
the crew over there. Black
they
Friday, Cyber Monday. Deals are happening. Let's go.
they also have Fletcher Chenard boards. So if Fletcher's been on your mind with the electric acid surfboard test, the FCD boards are up to $400 off.
The mullet model, right? I think it's called the mullet.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the mullet or not, or if that's on sale, but they definitely have the FCD boards. So go and check that out at realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail. A clean entry, this thing holding open, it spits.
When it spit me, I thought it was going to spit me off my board.
Comes out with the spit, spits him out.
Comes out after the spit.
Gets spat out of another good-looking wave here.
Spit.
We're just spitballing, right? Yeah, I got. Yeah, guy. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass with you. It's Spit. It's all things Spit. We talk surfing and surf culture and things that are happening in the world of surf. Good morning, David.
Happy Thanksgiving, Scott.
Yeah, you know what? Good point. It's a week where sometimes some of us focus on gratitude, and it's something that frankly we should focus on each and every day, not just one day. It'll certainly help me get off to a better start on my day if I'm focusing on being thankful, grateful, provides hope as we move through.
Sounds so simple to do. Wake up and feel grateful, but what pulls you out of it, Scott?
What
What
do
why wouldn't we all just feel grateful all the time? What are the things in life that make you feel any way
you?
different? What pulls you out of the gratitude?
Well, not too much to be honest with you, because I
Good.
start my day in a play. I have a morning ritual, so I'm certainly, there's times, a tax bill shows up unexpectedly or whatever, you get into a little
Totally.
bit of fear, but the bottom line is that, I have it really, really good. I'm super blessed. And, you know, it's, I think all of us that live in the United States have got real opportunity and a chance to, it's, sometimes driving around can get crazy if the holiday season, it gets a little chaotic. It's sort of the shopping centers or parking or wherever around town. But for the most part, there's no reason to not be in complete thankfulness.
You know what it is for me? is any outside inputs. Um,
Just stay locked in your little space there. You'll be fine.
it's totally true though. Like, and it is what you're saying. It's if you go out in public, of course, the traffic's going to drive you nuts. Parking's going to drive you nuts. Like, but even in my own space, I pick up my phone and all of a sudden my phone drives me nuts, you know? Like the consumerism of the phone, like, scrolling and seeing, oh my God, somebody's getting killer waves somewhere else. You know what? I got to go to Hawaii. I need to book a trip how can I get to Hawaii? And then you start doing that dance. And the moment that that invades my personal space, then Austin comes over and he wants my attention. And I'm like, hold on, buddy, I'm doing something right now. I'm scrolling my phone as if that's more important, you know? And so all of the outside stuff does alter my almost my temporary wanting, like my temporary longing for something, when in actuality, I have everything I want right here. I don't need any more consuming. I don't need any more attention or affection or anything like that. It's all right here. It's just as soon as I turn outward, I think I want more.
Yeah, look, we all fall victim to that. I'm certainly a guy who's, you know, scouring for new equipment, wanting more. I was on a deep dive yesterday looking at new equipment. Just,
Oil.
I actually have a call today. This is embarrassing. I'm going to let you know about this. I'm going to let the world know about this. I have a call today with a company to discuss equipment. Like they have this thing on their website. They're like, reach out and ask us questions. I'm like, okay. I thought it would be a chat bot. And I push the button and it's like schedule an appointment to talk to somebody in person. I'm like, okay, I will. I have an appointment today. Yeah. So,
You're already sold.
I am. I'm fully hooked. Like it's all he's going to have to say is you'll love it. And I'll be like, okay, send it on over.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as it relates to Thanksgiving, are the kids in town?
My daughter lives here in San Diego. So she'll be here with my father and his wife and my mother-in-law. It'll be a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow. Looking forward to
Are you
spending
making
time.
sourdough?
No, I have not. I'm off the bread making for almost, I don't know, quite a long time. I try not to eat bread, you
I
know?
know, but I figured with the holiday, you might be revisiting.
Yeah, but it takes some chops. Like it's not as simple as just you kind of got to have, I mean, I got so involved. I had certain bread baskets and you got to have everything kind of lined up. It's not as simple as just mixing some flour.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, enjoy, man. Have a good time with the fam.
Yeah, you too. Or is your mom coming in to your father and mother coming to Thanksgiving? And
Yeah, in-laws and my parents. We got 16 people coming, siblings,
whoa,
kids. I've got two turkeys. I got to brine two turkeys as soon as we're done with this. Brining is on the docket because it takes 24 hours. Potatoes two ways, cranberries two ways, peas, corn, bread, dessert, all of it. Gravy. I got
I
a
got
full
in
list, dude.
I got into this conversation last night where I was saying, look, the pro move is just have all the food pre-cooked and delivered. Like they do a good job. There's plenty of outside sources that'll just deliver you a killer Thanksgiving dinner. Now, you, of course, I know you're big into the process of cooking and
Mhm.
preparing and God bless you for it. But I want to say that I think that's the pro move, especially with 16 people. Like just order it, man. Have them deliver it, set it on your table, and boom, you're good. Plus,
I,
not as many dishes.
the dishes is the crux, to be honest with you, because you're right. It is the process. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the preparation. Last night I did prepare two dishes, and that was enjoyable for me rather than sitting on the sofa. I do that. Austin comes in, he hangs out, he helps me out a little bit. We go to the grocery store. He actually does all the grabbing of the things. So it's like, what else would you rather be doing with your time? In an evening, like I don't need any more leisure or consuming of content. And so this is kind of how I choose to spend the time. And then I like eating the food as well. But the cleanup is the absolute nightmare for me.
Yeah, I hate the cleanup. I agree. I know you're brining today. I love that you're brining,
Yeah.
and uh, Katrina, my wife, was trying to come up with a term for my surf report that would sort of shed a little bit of light on the coming day of Thanksgiving, but without being overly, you know, too Thanksgiving vernacular. And so I came up with the word brine. I'm going to use brine in my surf report. Now, I haven't done that yet. The
Okay.
report I have done, but I have not been able to squeeze in the word brine with, with that sense that it's a word I use often. It's got to flow off of the tongue rather smoothly, which not many words do, actually. In fact, I think yaga is the only thing that flows off of my tongue naturally and quickly.
Well, I'm also injecting and dry rubbing if you want to try to incorporate those.
Wow. So you brine, then you inject and dry rub, and then
So
you room temperature for the turkey before you put it
yeah,
in.
yeah. So brine starts this morning. Tomorrow morning, I will take them out of the brine in the fridge, let them kind of sit for maybe 2 hours, then inject the meat with a liquid, clarified butter and stock and some other stuff, and then dry rub it at that point before. Actually, I'm only going to dry rub. I'm like I said, I'm doing two. One's going on the smoker, one's going in the oven. The one that's going on the smoker gets the dry rub, not the one in
Okay.
the oven.
Yeah, I was going to say there's usually a butter rub with like some sort of rosemary or something.
So I'm going to do that on the one that goes in the oven. Butter under the skin, slather it all around, and then mash it. Yeah.
Dude, if this doesn't come out really, really good, and if it comes out really, really good and you don't get all the accolades and praise from your family members that you deserve, look, a festering resentment is going to build up.
Just in time for Christmas. And you're right. You're right. I do it for the accolade, actually, now that I think about it. But the other thing is like a lot of my mom or whoever else, Lauren's parents, the moms mainly, did this for 20 plus years with kids running around the house. They're done. They don't want to do it anymore. Like they're burned out. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
we have the space and we're glad to be able to do it. So that's part of what it is too.
Yeah, it's a crazy day. There's a lot going on, and patience. If you can find time to just sit quietly tomorrow morning before the craziness, I suggest you do that.
I will try my hardest.
Doesn't have to be
Lauren,
long. Give yourself 10 minutes of quiet time. Just
I'm one to prioritize that. The thing is, Lauren is up and out of the bed early in the morning before I am, and I can hear her running around the house and doing things. And so then I start to feel guilty if I'm not, but
yeah,
whatever, we'll work it out.
yeah.
Uh, there's something else I was going to tell you about Thanksgiving. Oh, I'll send you photos of the birds is what I was going to say.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Just as evidence of how it turned out.
I'll
Not
send you
claiming it's
photos of the guy from Costco showing up at my door bringing prepared food.
I mean, you're not wrong. Costco is hard to freaking beat, man. I did buy the pumpkin pie. It's 3 3/4 pounds. It's almost 4 pounds, and it's $5.99.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and it tastes as good as anything that you could possibly make.
Pumpkin pie is one of those things like it's a seasonal thing. Like you don't eat
Yeah.
pumpkin pie in July. Like why is that? Why don't they make pumpkin pie in July?
I mean, it's a root vegetable, and that's a seasonal thing, right?
Ah, there you go.
Or
Now you're getting all.
actually, it's not. It's a gourd, but it is seasonal.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, moving on. Let's talk surf. I wanted to follow up from last week's Pipe Masters conversation. We were talking about the Jamie O'Brien kerfuffle.
Yes.
So the boys at Stab Magazine, who are on the ground and also the media partner for Van's Pipe Masters, so they have insider info.
Yes.
Mikey Ciamarella did a great job on their podcast of breaking down that exact event. And it was actually pretty funny. It was kind of an indictment of Jamie O'Brien. He said that last year, after this event, Jamie O'Brien told the contest directors, he may have even said this publicly, give my place next year to a young up and comer. That is exactly what he said to the contest directors. So this year, they went ahead and did that. And out of respect, put him on the alternate list. Jamie created a stink about it quietly before he went to Instagram. Apparently, he had a change of heart in last year till now. Like last year, maybe he was over contest surfing, focusing on his career outside of that. This year, apparently, he had a change of heart. He wanted to be in the contest. They had given the spot, like I said, to somebody else. He complained privately. They actually said, yeah, no problem. You're back in the event. and had given him an invite into the event privately. He then went on Instagram and complained publicly. After he had already accepted the invite into the event, he then did the big post saying that they said that he was too old and all that sort of stuff after he had already accepted the invite. Then a day or two went by. Obviously, the internet was up in arms, went nuts, and was begging for him to be invited into the event. Then the following day, he did a post saying, you know, hey, you guys, thank you so much to my fans. It's all because of you that I got invited into the event, which is a basically stoking the social media fire and the algorithm and creating much ado about nothing when in reality he was already in the event.
Mm. All right. So Stab brings out some insight. They've uncovered some insight about the whole situation. Okay.
Drama, no drama needed.
Yeah.
But Jamie's in the event, obviously.
Well, it's going to be a fun event. I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, early December feels like, you know, every time December 7th rolls around, I think about Pipeline and the Pipe Master. So it'll be good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a week and a half away. I think December, is it the 7th that the opening
I
window
think it
starts?
starts on the 8th. I always think
Okay.
of the 7th. Pearl Harbor Day is, you know, right. It usually starts right around then. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember many times being on a flight December 5th and seeing like Pearl Harbor survivors on the same flight flying over to Oahu for the ceremonies. And I don't think there's too many of those Pearl Harbor survivors left, to be honest with you.
No, you're right, actually. That's a great point. Um,
Well, David, speaking of pumping surf, right, at Pipeline. By the way, the North Shore has been pumping. It's been a great early season of swell. Um, but guess where I'm on Surfline right now? And where do you think I'm watching 8 to 12 foot pumping surf?
Pipe.
No, Puerto Escondido. And
Oh,
this is my story, is that we've had a series of late season south swells, although maybe we haven't really felt it up here in Southern California. But I think we have, if you go to the right locations. They, you know, the swell's been a bit selective, but there has been two massive southern hemisphere storms that have spun off of underneath New Zealand and moved across the Southern Ocean in the South Pacific there to generate these swells. And it's 8 to 12 feet at Puerto Escondido today. It's been pumping the last couple of days. There's been, like I say, plenty of early season south or late season south swells, and there's another late season storm that's forming. That's again, you know, like probably early December at the prime south swell spots. And I'm talking like from Chile up into Peru, across Central America, up into Mexico, all the way up to locations even in Santa Cruz up into Canada. Although some of those northern hemisphere spots way up there might get sort of blowback from northern hemisphere swell that's been pumping. So we've got swell direction, at least here in North America, from both the south and the north in the Pacific. So it's been there's been plenty of swell and pretty exciting. I think it's cool when there's off-season south swells because it's a great opportunity to get down to locations that you might otherwise have already, you know, taken your eye off of.
how have the waves been around you?
The waves have just been okay, you know.
Yeah.
I think when I was in Fiji, there was plenty of northwest swell that I wasn't here for. I saw that Zeke and some guys put out some videos on YouTube from those sessions. You know, the last week's been small. Today's tiny, but my point is it's not tiny. I'm watching a 20-foot wave break at Puerto Escondido right now. Like if you have the ability to, you know, to find the surf, it's out there.
Yeah.
And there's going to be
absolutely.
south swell coming into Southern California for sure.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, it's been good here, but definitely not pumping, you know, not like a proper swell. So if that shows up, that'd be even better.
Yeah, there's some massive waves rolling through here. It's pretty fun to watch, but yeah.
Yeah. I know if you follow any of the North Shore YouTubers, they've documented a lot of what's going on over there. That's kind of the best way that I've found to stay attached to it. It's always a day or two late, but it's still pretty thorough. Interestingly, with the Vans Pipe Masters, they're actually not running a live stream of it this year, believe it or not.
You're kidding.
Budgetary.
We don't even get to watch the Pipe Masters.
No.
What good is it? What the hell? That
I
kind
know,
of like you just kind of ruined my morning. No.
I mean,
Oh,
it is.
that's too bad.
Well, Stab is committed to trying to do, a very thorough job of posting stuff in real time, basically via all their platforms, social media and YouTube.
Okay, that's good to know. So we got to go to the Stab Instagram for a live Insta feed.
I mean, I don't know if it'll be a live feed. Maybe it will be a live feed, but they'll be posting, they'll have professional filmers shooting clips and then posting them immediately, basically. So you'll be able to see stuff shortly after it happens, but there
Right.
not an all-day stream like there normally is with commentary and all that sort of stuff. And I've heard it is budgetary, and I think it is a reflection of VF Corp's, financial woes and restructuring and all that sort of stuff. So hard times all the way around. Bummer for the viewer, but I guess at least they're still running the event and giving out prize money to surfers.
Well, that's unfortunate. I'm disappointed to hear that, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
David, did you know that, speaking of Stab, our friend 𝗖cie_𝗵𝗵 has an opinion that the men's WCT Championship Tour field should be cut from 36 to 24. That sounds quite familiar.
Seems like an obvious conclusion to land on these days.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I feel somewhat, I guess, is vilified the right word? No, I feel
vindicated.
Vindicated. That's the word I'm looking for. Vindicated. Yeah. I've been saying this. You've been saying this. I've been saying this for, I don't know, 15 years. How long has it been?
Yeah.
There's too many guys on tour. So they're going to, they have they've added to the women, right? So there's 24 women now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that is correct. I'd have to look up the number. I had this in my notes like 2 or 3 weeks ago when the news dropped, and then we never discussed, but I think that was the number.
Yeah.
I could look it up.
They're expanding it from 18 to 24. That's in 2026, by the way. That's not this year. And Mikey jumped on that concept and said, hey, since we're doing that, let's make the men's and the women's both 24 surfers. And I think it's a great idea. You and I have been mentioning this forever. And we'll see what happens. But I'm glad that Stab's on our bandwagon here.
Yeah, so 2026, the women's field will include the top 14 surfers from the CT and then the top 7 qualifiers from the Challenger Series, 2 WSL seasonal wildcards, and 1 event wildcard. So that brings the total to 24. The effort is to kind of create parity between the men and the women's tour. So this is a step towards that. But the funny thing is the women had it right all along. Like the men should have had fewer surfers that reflected the women's surfers. The women don't need more surfers. Of course, Jessie Miley Dyer's stance, and they interviewed some of the top female surfers to get their opinion. And they all kind of said, it's great just to create more opportunity for the hot up and comers to come compete on the world's level. So this gives more opportunity for everybody. I mean, you and I can appreciate that sentiment, but I think we would say, look a step further and say, create the opportunity on the second tier, really robust opportunity here. And then on the very top tier, we just want to see heavyweights duking it out, essentially.
I would agree with that, but a caveat there is that if that's a second tier, the tier just below the CT doesn't have prime pumping surf like the CT, it does no good at all. In other words, I think, as you know, Jesse or whoever's in charge here, the idea is let's give these people a chance at pipe and at cloud break and at these prime CT spots. It does no good to have a second tier at Huntington Beach and then throw some 15-year-old into pipeline. It's like, dude, like, let's get this thing going.
So I posted an interview with Liam McNamara last week, and he was talking specifically about Hawaiian youth, but did use a kind of expanded it out to the broader world and say exactly that. And it's something we've said here a lot, but it was the CS tour the QS tour is basically ping pong. You got kids, young people surfing knee-high beach breaks around the world. It's super expensive to travel all around the world. They've got these events going on all of the time. So you're flying around to surf, basically to play ping pong. And the moment you get on the CT, you're at Wimbledon, facing off against John, who has trained Wimbledon his entire life. Like it really doesn't translate. You know, it's a very, very poorly designed system if the goal is to foster, you know, the best surfers and the best waves in the world. So it needs to be redesigned and
So
rethought.
is the CS in shambles, you think?
You know, if you really take what he said, what Liam McNamara said, to heart, yeah, it's entirely in shambles because there's no focus on Hawaii. Like, how do you not focus on Hawaii? We know where the best waves are in the world every year. It's super consistent. All you have to do is show up and you have your opportunity there. And you don't even have to wait in line because the surf will weed out most of the line. And so, not having Challenger Series events with high point values there, not having the Triple Crown there, it really erodes the feeder system, and it really almost prevents opportunity for there to be the next Carissa Moore and the next John Florence, because sure, those are world-class talents, but what they also had was competitive opportunities to really hone their competitive skills so that by the time they ended up traveling around the world and competing in Brazil, they had the same competitive prowess as the Australians did and the Brazilians did because they had the feeder system at home. They don't have that anymore.
Yeah, it's funny because it's just like right in front of them.
I know.
All you have to do is look at history. Guess where everyone went in the 1950s? They went to Hawaii. Why?
Yeah.
Because the waves are pumping. It's the spot. There's a reason everyone is drawn to Hawaii in the winter. And it's been that way since professional surf. It's not even professional, just surfing in general. I mean, Phil Edwards, these guys, Walter Hoffman was going to 𝗪𝗃𝗄𝗃 in 1955. You know what I mean? Like the founders of the surf industry followed their lead. And if, you know, we've got to go to Hawaii and have, like, yeah, you mentioned, you know, we need a robust competitive season in the gnarliest, biggest waves in the world all the time. And it's silly that it's just so right in front of them. And now, look, I know there's a lot of issues. There's permitting issues, but you're a professional organization with apparently unlimited funds. So let's go.
Totally. And the cool thing about surfing is the reason that those people went there back in the 50s isn't because some predecessor made some political decisions or bureaucratic decisions that dictated the direction of the sport, you know, and now we got to include this sponsor or do this thing, or we have to air at this time or any of that. Mother Nature dictated it all. Surfers figured it out. And
the waves are the stars.
It is what it is. There is a roadmap that's designed by Mother Nature that you can just simply look at and have the answers to. You don't need to rethink it, you know?
Yeah.
You don't need to manufacture drama. All the drama is there.
All the data is there. It's really, really simple. You know what I mean? But yeah.
So reinvestment in the competitive kind of events in Hawaii, I think would be a major, major step forward.
Now, there are permitting issues, right? I mean, the city county of Honolulu, Hawaii, they only issue so many competitive permits. And I think, and I don't know, but I think they're all spoken for, and it is quite political, you know.
So there are a couple of 1,000 or 1-star, 1,000 point events that do take place there that don't have a live stream. Why couldn't they just make those 10,000 points?
Yeah, I agree.
And funnel some
like
more money.
The recent event at Sunset Beach, like that happens all the time, right?
And
there used to be
pumping.
two. There was one in October. Then there was the World Cup at Sunset.
Yeah. So the recent event at Sunset Beach was absolutely pumping, and they had no live stream of it.
Yeah.
And it was only 1,000 points. So bump those up to 10,000 points, put them on the internet, you know, that's all you really need to do, actually. And then the permit that they currently are using in February for the Pipe Pro is a great window with great waves, and make that the final stop of the season instead of the first stop of the season.
I wonder if, there are people within the WSL that have a history that's kind of a negative history over in Hawaii with the politician, with some of the stakeholders, let's call them, on the North Shore, some of the heavies. There's a conflict, and I wonder if there's people that are pulling the strings on at the WSL that simply have a vendetta, or just like, we're not, like, it's gotten personal rather than big picture. Like, let's do what's best for the sport. It's gotten like, we're not going there because we don't get along with this faction of people over there. And so no matter what, until they're gone, we're not doing that. We're not creating a massive competitive structure in Hawaii.
You nailed it. That's exactly what it always is. Nathan Fletcher is the contest organizer for the Vans Pipe Masters, who you would think is, immune to any political infighting. He's a representative of Vans as a sponsored athlete, but he's also been on the North Shore for a long time. He's super, super capable. He surfs pipe. He does big airs. It's kind of like you think that he could massage every side of anybody who has any, whatever, issues, criticisms. I've heard that everybody's got an opinion about, like he's taking flack from everybody as well. So I think that position, it's a terrible position to be in. It's a thankless position to be in. There's always going to be people who disagree with the way that you're doing things. You're just going to take so much crap. And so that's always been the case. That's more the case in Hawaii than anywhere else on the planet. And I think it's come to kind of an impasse with a lot of this stuff.
Well, I don't know all the movers and shakers. I don't think Nathan Fletcher is the one at the WSL that says, yes, we're going to have a robust CS. Like, the buck stops at the WSL. They have unlimited funding. There's no doubt about it. From Mr. Ziff, they can have a robust season of CS and CT competition in Hawaii. And there's somebody there that has, it is my opinion. I don't base this on anything but what you and I and everyone in the surf world kind of hears. But there's somebody over there that has decided that we're not going to do Hawaii because there's a faction in Hawaii of local people that have created issues with me and us at the WSL to a point that we are just withdrawing. Until that faction in Hawaii is no longer moving the levers, we will not be involved there. And so, and it's sad because, what's interesting, you mentioned Nathan Fletcher. I had just mentioned his grandfather, Walter Hoffman. Like you said, like the framework is there. Just follow the leaders. And we've gotten to a place where we no longer have robust competition on the North Shore, and it's silly, and it's personal. That's the problem, is that like, people that are making these decisions need to move on from their resentments or whatever it is that's stopping them from doing the right thing. This is the right thing to do. It's very simple, but it's obviously complicated.
Yeah. I hear you. I agree with what you're saying. Community leaders in Hawaii have created a hostile working environment, essentially, and the WSL doesn't want to do it. Yeah. I think that makes sense. But it is a personal decision from individuals saying, hey, we're fed up. We don't want to work in that environment anymore, as opposed to just stepping aside and doing what's right for the sport and for your audience and all that sort of stuff.
I don't know which, I think there's blame on both sides. I'm not saying it's completely on the WSL. I get why it would be so frustrating that you just go, you know what, we've tried this for 20 years and there's just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, to a point where there was, physical confrontation involved.
Oh yeah. So, but you know what? The reason why is because you have a finite, precious resource.
Yes.
So that happens whether it's pulling gold from a mountain or diamonds out of a mine or whatever like this is what, so they're going to fight tooth and nail to get it and to protect it and to have things done their way. It is what it is.
Well, that's fine, but then you can't complain about it. Like Liam can't complain. Like the bottom, I think that, I mean, Liam can complain and I understand his complaints and they're valid and it's unfortunate. We're all kind of trying to do the same thing.
I know we
but
are.
There are, it's a two-way street. It's not just the power brokers at the WSL. There's power brokers in Hawaii that have created a rift.
Totally. It is it's disappointing, but the good news is surfing moves on. Like the good news is all of this is only related to competitive surfing. And surfing is more interesting now than ever. It's more diverse than ever. It's less homogeneous than it's ever been. And I have more access to content now than I ever did when they were running contests in their heydays and in real time. And so I think they've made themselves, the contest kind of structure has made itself irrelevant to a certain degree by not navigating this accurately.
Exactly. Like it's almost like they've missed the mark, and it's kind of like when you're swimming against a current and you can't get to the headland and you pass by the headland and you're swept out to sea.
Yeah.
And it feels like we might be swept out to sea here. Like there's no getting back into this current. And even if you did get back to the headland, at that point we realized past the headland, there's all this other great places to be rescued.
And nobody's even looking for you anymore when you get swept past the headland.
Right.
So us as viewers, we've filled that void with a bunch of other content that we now find more interesting. And it's kind of like, even if you come back,
I don't even know if it's more interesting. It's just more content. It's just like taking up our bandwidth.
Maybe.
You know, like I mean, you mentioned that there's no live feed of the Van's Pipe Masters. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But kind of inside, I was like, I mean, it does disappoint me greatly.
Because of what it signals, but it doesn't, the day that it happens, it's not going to really affect anything.
Right. When I really look at it, I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to spend all day in front of my computer.
No.
You know, although if you and I are doing this thing on December 6th and we're like, it's 8 to 10, it's going to be perfect. It's been perfect. We're going to be a little bummed that we didn't tune in and get all the butterflies.
So interestingly, when we were talking about the size and the restructuring of the women's tour, and I said this was in my notes a few weeks ago and we never discussed it, this is exactly why. It's because it's actually not priority news anymore, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it used to be headline news, now it isn't.
But, and let me ask you this, going back to sort of the Liam and the locals in Hawaii that justly feel like their local guys aren't getting the support they deserve. Did Liam in your discussion talk about the power brokers on the North Shore, which it could be argued are part of the issue here? Or was it strictly disappointment in the WSL?
Well, no, he did not talk about, he mentioned Marty Thomas by name and feeling like Marty's mismanaged his role organizing events. Basically, you know, like if you had somebody who is a really, I don't know, go-getter driven, they would be collecting sponsors and funding these events and really elevating them. Whereas he's just kind of phoning it in is what Liam was kind of saying. So, but not the power brokers outside of the contest.
You need to have Marty come in and discuss.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Marty has his side of it too.
Yeah.
So no, he did not discuss, if you're speaking of anybody else that's like kind of outside the contest scene that's trying to protect and speak for the community. No, he did not talk about them.
And again, I speak from a position of ignorance really, but it feels like the answer to the equation regarding points and money is Mr. Ziff. Like it's just a flip of a switch. That amount of money to get to those points, it's obvious to us that he doesn't mind losing money here.
Yeah.
And so that's just boom. But he's hearing from important people at the WSL in California that we're just not doing this. And so he's taking their lead. He's listening to his people he's put in charge.
I guess so. I mean, I can just say from the consumer side, I follow the QS's Instagram feed. So it's like WSL.QS or something like that. And any given week, every other week, it's some contest with a sponsor I've never heard of, a name of a contest I've never heard of. I can't tell. Are they in Puerto Rico right now, or is it Portugal? It kind of all looks similar because they're riding knee-high to waist-high waves, and it's some QS warrior who I may have heard of who's like pumping down the line, and they do a big air, and then they're like 9-point ride, and everybody's cheering on the beach, and I'm like, I can't even, it all looks the same, and there's zero drama, and it's not innovative. These airs I was watching in Taylor Steele's films from the 1990s. Like it's a
It's
complete
just it's
waste.
an overload, isn't it? You know what it reminds me of? Years ago, you and I used to get ISA, press releases like, oh, you know, we're going to here and we're going to have a contest
Yeah.
there and blah, blah, blah. And we'd be just like, holy shit, it's overload of ISA press releases.
And it's
And that's
150 surfers, and there's repercharge heats and all this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And it feels like, and it used to be, and then the QS, we'd have more interest. We'd be like, okay, yeah, these are going to be the hot new guys that are coming into the CT. And now it feels exactly like when I get QS news reports coming my way, I'm just like, is this the ISA or is this the QS? Or basically, I don't care anymore. I don't
Like,
care.
yeah, it's impossible to track characters. It's almost impossible to track locations. And there's zero care about the waves because the wave quality it looks like what I'm going to surf later today. You know what I mean? So, but
Maybe surfing isn't a sport after all.
well, so Surfing World magazine I have right here. If you want,
Whoa.
if you want a copy of it, you could buy it through surfsplendorpodcast.com. Sean Doherty sends me a few dozen issues and to distribute to US. Scott Bass wants one to US people. They don't want to have
Yeah.
to pay shipping from Australia. So he ships them bulk to me and then I can just parse them out from here. So if you want one, come and get it on surfsplendorpodcast.com. But the reason I bring this up is this issue is the 50 most interesting surfers right now. And I found it to be particularly spot on and salient. Sean's initial writing at the beginning is like, surfing has never been more interesting or maybe less interesting than ever. Like, if you want to pay attention, there's plenty to pay attention to. There's something for everybody. But also, me, David Scales, who talks about surfing online freaking 3 hours a week every week, doesn't know half these people in the top 50. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
That's
like
interesting.
it's true. It's like there's
Okay, starting at number one and moving through, who's the first person that you don't know? What number are they? The first person that you don't know, is it like number 15?
That's a great question, but they don't structure it 1 through
Oh,
50. It's all kind of just scattered shot. But I'll just read some of the names that I don't know, and I'll see if I could. Yeah, so it's not really structured that way. I hate to tell you.
that's interesting.
But Kurt Jenkins. Do you know Kurt Jenkins?
Oh, Kurt with a C or a K?
With a K, K-I-R-K.
I know Kurt with a C. I don't know Kurt with a K.
What about Dave Wyatt?
Don't know him.
What about Sam Jones?
Nope.
What about Mick Lawrence?
Nope.
Addie Jones?
Are there any? Is this all Australians?
It's funny. It's a lot of Australians, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not all Australians. It's Kelly Slater. It's Sierra Kerr. It's a bunch of people you do know as well. Russell
Yeah.
Bierke's Australian. Katie Simmers is on here.
Russell Bierke's been kind of off the radar lately.
For you and I, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
if you're there, you probably.
I mean, I follow him on
being
Insta, but
exposed.
I don't know. My algorithms.
But here's more to my point that I'm getting to is that
Mhm.
surfing is happening everywhere around the world in more interesting ways than it is on the WSL and what they're promoting, especially with the QS level of stuff. And I'm exposed to a lot of it, and that satiates my interest and my need, but there's still 1 million other things happening that are equally as interesting that I just don't have access to or exposure to, or the tolerance, the timing to even like check it out. So I'm going to read one of these.
Mhm.
This is listing number 29, the 29 most interesting surfers.
So
in
they
the
do
world.
have it numbered.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, it starts, Kelly Slater's the first one that they put, and it's number 28. So they're not starting at 50 and counting down to 1, or they're not starting at 1 and counting up. So it kind of goes out of order.
Okay.
Like start
I
with
gotcha.
28, then it goes to Cliff Capone's at 30, then it goes to, I don't know who else,
Is
Mesa
number one
Cove.
John John?
No. I haven't even gotten to number one. Again, you know what? I don't even know if they're numbered. I don't even think they're numbered. It's just 50. They're not numbered.
Okay.
Okay. Surf Witches. This one, listen to this. You'll come around to it. Also, it's a different writer for each entry. So this one's written by 𝗕𝗰𝗺𝗺. Surf Witches. My mom is part of a group up in the Gold Coast called the Surfing Witches. It's a group of social surfing. It's a women's social surfing club who surf all over the Goldie, but it's a lot more than that. My mom is actually part of a splinter group within the group who call themselves the Spring Chickens. It's a dozen or more women in their 60s and 70s who came to surfing late in their life and just found how incredible it is. My mom's partner of many years died a year and a half ago, and the Spring Chickens just kept showing up at her door. Let's go for a surf. Let's go check Fingal. Let's go check the north end of the Goldie. Let's go surfing. And they helped her through all of that. And they help each other through all sorts of personal issues. It's an amazing little network. It's really special. The women in her group, a lot of them have similar stories. They're all of a sudden on their own. And that generation typically have been looking after their older male partners for decades. They've given so much of themselves and they typically are pretty selfless. So the idea of doing something for themselves, like going surfing, would never happen. And so what's amazing is that this group of women, they're of that generation, but all of a sudden, either through divorce or through losing their husbands or partners, they find themselves on their own in the world. They look out into the world. They don't really see themselves in many places. They're not in art. They're not in music. They're not in the world that much. So they've just made a place for themselves in surfing. There's no hierarchy or agenda within the club, just surfing. It allows them to hang out on the beach, stay active, and it makes them happy. They can deal with life better, be better, and healthier. Every aspect is just positive. They're just a stoked bunch in their 70s. It's funny, they're not really that impressed by anything from the surf industry or surfing more widely. They paddle out on big boards, wear helmets and gloves, full body Lycra. They don't give a crap about fashion. They've got no filter either. They're at an age where they've got nothing to lose. They just want to ride waves, and that's truer to the core of surfing than anything else, really. They just get together and have a good time and have a laugh, and it's a very pure branch of the surfing tree, I reckon.
Yeah, and that is interesting. I get it now. It's about interesting surfers, not, you know.
It didn't say influential. It's the 50 most interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool concept too. I like that.
But
I'm interested in the Spring Chickens. I am. I love what it's all about. In fact, it's probably the purest form of surfing, like Dave said. And oh, by the way, look, there's some chickens and roosters behind me there. You know who my favorite surfer of all time is? Chicken Joe, right? Is it Surfer Joe? Chicken Joe.
Oh, from the movie?
From the movie. He's kind of like the Spring Chickens. Like, he just doesn't care.
Well, totally.
What you think of him. And
this illustrates precisely what we're talking about with losing interest in the WSL. Like, the WSL is the exact, I shouldn't say, competitive surfing is the exact opposite of what I've just read. And the way that the WSL has managed competitive surfing is kind of the worst version that we've seen of competitive surfing in surfing ever. And so that is what is so distasteful to us. And so we need kind of reminders, and thanks to Surfing World, to check in with these little pockets that still exist, because you can get stuck in your own echo chamber of things that you think you're interested in and you think you need or you think that you liked. But the reality is that's not the core. Like, that's not the core tenet of what I initially loved in this thing. It looks nothing like it. So back to the old, you know?
Yeah, the landscape is just a kaleidoscope. The surf culture landscape is just so much broader than it used to be. It's funny because when I worked at Surfer Magazine, if I brought a little piece to whoever the editor was and said, hey, let's do a thing on the Spring Chickens, these 70-year-old ladies on the Gold Coast, they'd be like, that wouldn't even make it onto the website. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And
you know the
this is a
answer.
changing kaleidoscope of surf culture. Like we're getting older. There's also, I think, the demographics older. Go ahead. You have a thought.
Well, no, but you have an answer to why they said that, and it was because of financial interests.
Right. For sure.
It
No, there's
it
no doubt.
it was we have a limited amount of pages in here, and there's these 5 brands paying us. Like, let's feature the team rider instead. That's way more
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, the Surfer's Journal was running stories like this at
Yeah,
that
no,
time.
I mean, they're subscriber-based revenue streams. I mean, like you said, like ad-based print.
Yeah, which this still is. Like, a choice was made here, and a choice was made at the Surfer's Journal that we can tell these stories because they are equally as interesting, you know?
Yeah.
So you're right, though, the kaleidoscope, you're still right that the kaleidoscope has entirely changed and media has changed. It's all been upended, but I I'm glad to be reminded of stories like this, basically.
I am too. I think it's great. And speaking of the Surfer's Journal, it is the time of year to give gifts. I'm not sponsored. We're not sponsored, but I give that gift each year. I gave that gift to my son this year. Um, I give that gift to myself each year. What you have there, what Sean's doing, is a great gift opportunity because it's so interesting, like what's happening with the surf space. Like I'm always going, how are the kids at Seaside Reef, the 15-year-old kids, like we know they're going through their Insta scrolls, like the algorithm, they're not going to get the same thing that I get.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of foiling. I'm getting a lot of Torrin Martin. I'm getting a lot of like Nick Von Rupp, you
Yeah.
know. I'm not getting like Jet Schilling's latest session wherever,
Right.
and the kid at Seaside Reef next to his best bro might not be getting that. His algorithm might be classical guitar because he's into that too. Like it's kind of a hard dart to throw where everything's going to land, and it is this vast kaleidoscope.
I like it better now than ever. There's more color, there's more options, more colors in the kaleidoscope, more options.
I mean, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you something.
Yeah.
Is it possible, and I mean quickly, like within 5 years, that we just don't have professional surfing anymore?
Are you
Not
talking about
competitive
competitive?
surfing? No, I mean, we'll have competitive surfing. That will always be around. But I mean, like a broad international competitive surfing, like the WSL. If the WSL,
Yes.
in 5 years, the WSL will fade away. Will there be somebody that comes in and and tries to capture that?
It's yes, within 5 years, it's possible that the
How
WS.
come? Because we've proven there's no money in it. It's way too expensive.
No, I think there's a way to do it and still earn money doing it.
But will it be good?
Yes. I think the WS in 5 years, to answer your question, the WSL can go away. That's plausible. And also within that time, something else can manifest that is better and profitable. I absolutely believe
I didn't
that.
ask about that though. I'm talking about crowning world champions in a fair and equitable fashion.
Yes, I do believe that.
Okay.
I think 5
Is
years
that
would be
because I know your answer to this might be UFC modeling. Is that what you're considering?
yeah, I mean, not exactly modeled after some of the ways that they've propped up their athletes and gotten their fans engagement. I think those are the cues that I would take, but it would not be structured like, exactly like their competitions are structured.
Do you think that no matter what, there will be an international professional surfing champion crowned in some way, as opposed to in 5 years, is it possible that we just don't even care anymore? And yeah, there's events at Pipe and there's events here, but it's not a structured, um, format that's pointing towards crowning a world champion.
I think it could go
That's
away.
legitimate amongst the eyes of the people.
I think it's possible that it could go away for a couple of years and take a couple of years for somebody else to come in and reinvent it. So there could be a downtime of 2 to 3 years, let's say.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, last week I was talking about the guy just sold Jersey Mike's, Peter Cancrow. He made $8 billion. He's a surfer, allegedly, from Jersey. And so that guy's moneyed up. That's a new person who could come in and just be like, and knows how to run business, who can come in and be like, hey, WSL, what'd you pay for it when you bought it from the ASP? Oh yeah, zero. You took on the debt. Cool. I'll give you zero. I'll take it on, restructure it. We got 10 guys, 10 girls. We're going to the best spots in the world. We're doing 5 events. Boom, done. We're ending at Pipeline. Like that could happen.
Yeah.
Or it could be WSL says, no, we need X number of dollars. And he goes, F it. I'll let you guys die on the vine. And so it goes away for 2 to 3 years and then it comes back as something new. So
Yeah.
those things are all plausible. But the bigger question, you said, does professional surfing go away? Professional surfing doesn't go away. Maybe that organization goes away, but Nate Florence is still getting paid. You know what
No,
I
I
mean?
mean, I meant
Yeah.
competitive. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
the interests, the kid at Seaside and you and me and Sean Doherty and the Spring Chickens, like all of these people, are we just going to lose interest in competitive surfing?
I mean, I've lost a lot of interest, but I still have interest.
How much do you think the wave pool in the Olympics will either help our interest in competitive surfing or move us away from our interest in competitive surfing?
Generally move away. I think it'll have a little novelty interest for the broad market of people watching the Olympics, but not nearly engaging enough to convert them into fans. And it only erodes your and my interest.
I think what's going to happen is there's just going to be silos. There's going to be
Yeah.
like wave pool stabs high thing. There's going to be there's going to be the Pipeline Masters. There will be an event at Waimea. There will be an event at Mavericks. There will be there will be an ISA thing, but it's just going to be silos. There's going to be a longboard event each year that somebody puts on at Malibu.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be these silos where it's just never going to all kind of come together as one.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that happening too. Kind of like there's motocross or supercross that happens in the stadium. And then there's dudes just riding their enduro bikes out in the forest. You know what I mean? And never the tween shall meet.
Look at you, Shakespeare.
I just want to say, I figured out I feel really dumb now, but the number I said Kelly Slater's number 28 and they have him listed first.
Page 28.
That was page 28. But they're not numbered. The 50 entries, I think in a very, very smart move from Surfing World, the 50 most interesting people in the world are not numbered 1 through 50. It's just 50 people. So,
but do you take away that the first one mentioned or the last one mentioned is number 1, or it's just a complete layout thing? They just did it based on photo spread layout.
It was intentionally not numbered.
Yeah. Good for them.
In terms of quality or value of interest. I've got to get the kid to preschool very shortly and brine some turkeys, but I do want to say a couple of other things real quick before we go.
Yeah.
The Nick Von Rupp little article that Stab Magazine did is worth reading. Did you check that out?
I watched it happen. I haven't read it, but
yeah. So I saw the clip, and then I was glad to see that Stab Magazine actually interviewed Nick Von Rupp and the other character. So Nick Von Rupp is surfing Nazaré, towing into Nazaré on a building swell, but like a tow swell with a bit of chop in the water. He whips in deep, as you do when you're on a ski. And there's a dude who's surfing Nazaré for the very first time. His name's Gabriel da Silva, and he was paddling in at the peak. So Nick comes in from deep, and Gabriel drops in straight. They have full collision contact. Like Gabriel hits a chop, dropping in on a gun because he's paddling, of course. Hits a chop, gets ejected off his board. Nick's flying Mach 1 across the face of the wave, and they just make complete contact and immediately get sucked over the falls. The wave happens to break right on them, and you see them getting sucked over the falls. Nick described it as one of the most crowded swells he had ever seen. It was super packed with lots of people, skis. There were people hanging out on skis, filming. It was just complete shit show, super gnarly, 30 skis, 4 or 5 paddlers. So it was pure pandemonium out there. The clip's incredible, but the article's great too. They interview both guys, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. And what's the funny takeaway from that thing is Gabriel was paddling for that wave because he knew behind him were like a building set. He was screwed if he didn't catch that wave. So his head was down and he was going no matter what. Who has the priority? I don't know, yet to be determined.
Well, Nick addresses that. Nick's like, look, in general, even if you're whipping in and you kind of have like a good line and you see somebody paddling, you give way to the paddler. Paddlers have priority. However, Nazaré is a unique spot and it is a tow spot at this point, especially with this much swell. So the paddlers need to watch out, basically.
It's funny because one of the local guys there is saying that it's we've reached, it's jumped the shark, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I did want to address something else that came up in the news last week, which is this Ocean Beach seawall. Last Thursday, the California Coastal Commission voted to approve a plan to build a massive 3,200-foot seawall to protect the south end of San Francisco's Ocean Beach against erosion. The seawall designed to extend 55 feet underground, aimed to protect critical wastewater treatment facility that houses a 14-foot diameter sewage tunnel. So a failure of this tunnel, meaning if the ocean, eroded it enough to break the tunnel, it could release hundreds of thousands of gallons of untreated sewage and stormwater into the ocean. So promoted as a long-term solution to coastal management, the project seeks to combat erosion, enhance resilience in rising sea levels, and protect public recreational access. You get it. We've heard this happen over and over. My confusion with all of this stuff, Scott, as a layperson, Surfrider Foundation is always against this, building of things, basically man-made things. And then I hear coastal coalitions, California Coastal Commission side, and they say, we're also trying to protect against erosion. And then the Surfrider says the same thing, but then they're doing entirely different things. And so just as the layperson, I'm always confused of like, who's not saying something? You know what I mean? And so
all the money.
So I talked to the guys at Surfrider about it, and I was like, just give me the bullet points. Like, what am I missing here? They go, it doesn't come in bullet points. Here's the reality is that
there's a lot of money in San Francisco.
Well, for sure, always, like Mother Nature on a grander scale, apply this anywhere around the world. Mother Nature breathes and contracts, and sometimes it erodes and sometimes it'll replenish, but things happen cyclically and they happen over a long period of time. But when people build close to the ocean, they want to protect their financial interests. And so they will do things like build a retaining wall or build a seawall or whatever, which doesn't allow Mother Nature to breathe and contract. It only further creates problems. And so Surfrider's interest here, and I think on a broader scale, is creating nature-based solutions, not creating more man-made structures. So the man-made structure leads to more erosion over a long period of time or a short period of time even. And so it's always they want to protect the sewage treatment plant. The solution is move the sewage treatment plant inland, because even if you create this seawall here, that will create erosion over time, and you'll just be in this position again 15 years down the road trying to protect this thing, the treatment plant. So move the treatment plant is the solution.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion that I've come to.
But the Coastal Commission's not doing that?
No.
Yeah.
They're building the seawall, which, by the way, is going to ruin the waves for Ocean Beach, which is what the local surfers are concerned about. That's my other thought when these things come up is I'm concerned about the waves as a surfer too, but that's not my primary concern. You know what I mean? Like the waves are, you can find waves elsewhere. There's bigger concerns here, but the reality is it will ruin that surf break.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
And then the final thing that I wanted to point out was must-see moment presented by Treeswax, the performance-based petroleum-free surf wax, treeswax.com. Nick Paulette, filmer Nick Paulette, yesterday posted raw clips from Cloudbreak from June of 2012.
Whoa.
12 years old, but this is a swell you'll remember. Reef McIntosh, I think, got a cover or two. Dave Wassel, maybe. Ramon Navarro, just out of nowhere. I mean, Ramon Navarro like skittering through the barrel like on like a 8-foot gun, like it is
This isn't
ins
the Thundercloud swell, is it? Where the
I don't
pros were there?
it was a bunch of pros there. I don't think it was the Thundercloud swell, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah. Well, you would know. I mean,
I,
if it's just the most meatiest, gnarliest ever.
it's it might have been a day or two before,
Oh, I see.
but it's I mean, Cloudbreak is
Dude, it's so gnarly. The video won't even do it justice. It's such a consequential wave.
it's insane. And when you see, I mean, the way it's loading up on the reef and a guy taking off deep and make it like pump, but they're riding these giant boards. So they can't really pump them, but they're committed. Like I said, Ramon. And then you see the thing like folding over and he's deep and the amount of speed, like I said, and he's skittering, like the board's just chattering in the tube as he's going. It's like, it's so gnarly.
I'm looking forward to watching that.
It hasn't been rivaled since.
Yeah.
Like it's 12 years later, and that footage looks like, I mean, it still is high performance surfing.
There's a phrase end real quickly with this. There's a phrase that John Roseman uses when the waves get a certain direction and a certain height and a certain tide, and it's pipeline point. And it's
Oh,
basically
yeah.
pipeline, but a point wave. It's just 100 yards of just a pipeline barrel. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, go check it out. Nick Paulette's YouTube channel, which only has like 250 subscribers. I don't think he really publishes much, but he was in the water that day, and so he's pulling it out of the archives.
Cool. I'm going to check that out. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
David, great show. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Remember that when you perform an act of kindness, serotonin is released in your brain. It is also released in the person who received the act, and serotonin is also released from the people who witness the act. So liberate the serotonin.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adios and aloha.
𝗲𝗵+.com. Scott, stay warm in the wintertime with 𝗲𝗵+.com.
Do you have the wet dry bag with the T-lock zipper?
I
No,
do.
that's a backpack?
I got the backpack.
Oh, that's the thing. I need me ones of those. No, I don't need, I have everything I would ever want in my life, but that thing is cool. The T-lock, look at you. You're like beaming, like this is the greatest thing ever. And quite frankly, it could be.
I mean, it looks space age, right? This like
It
almost
does.
white gray, very light gray. It looks white. It's an incredible bag. So we talk about the wetsuits, of course, the wetsuits. Hopefully you already have yours because the water's cold.
Oh yeah.
The Yamamoto rubber wetsuits,
You.
incredible quality. But these world-class adventure bags. I mean, look, you don't need this for your laptop. This is made for going out into the elements. It's waterproof, it's airtight. If I pull this zipper fully tight, I could use this as a flotation device, literally.
Right.
They're incredible bags. And so they make 3 different sizes. This is the smallest, it's a backpack, and then there's a duffel, and then there's a big duffel, but they'll get you through anything. Get thrown off a boat, need to swim into the beach, it'll get you there.
Yeah, those are professional grade, waterproof, watertight bags for the adventurer. And what a great gift for the gift season. Oh my.
Yeah, something that people probably, it's maybe not buy it for themselves, but it's an incredible product. So 𝗲𝗵+.com. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.